Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, and thanks for joining. During today's webinar, I'll be covering some of the key features and benefits of the accesso Siriusware dynamic pricing e-commerce calendar, as well as our new event calendar. My name is Phil Schwartz, and I am the Inside Sales Director here at accesso. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items so you know what to expect and how to participate in today's session. You may have already noticed your voices have been muted. They will remain muted throughout the session. However, you will be able to type questions to our moderator throughout the webinar. Then at the end of the session, there will be a Q&A taken from your typed questions. All right, let's get started. At accesso, we believe technology has the power to redefine the guest experience. Everything we do starts with thinking about the guest experience first, which allows us to help simplify operations, improve guest satisfaction, and drive growth for our clients. In the context of what I'll be showing you today, I feel that our calendar views offer your guests a great new way to buy and offer you a great new way to sell. Before jumping into the main content of the webinar, I want to provide a little background and context on accesso and the changes we've undergone in the last year. We are proud to be one of the largest ticketing providers in the world, working with over 1,000 venues in 30 countries. 2017 saw accesso bring in over $133 million in revenue. I'll come back to this in a minute, because while it's a number for us to be proud of, it's significant for our clients as well, as it allows us to put a substantial amount of resources back into our products. Although we offer 6 solutions, we think about those solutions in 4 different product sets. The first is accesso Low Queue, which provides virtual queuing solutions to attractions around the globe. The second category is ticketing. In addition to our robust accesso Siriusware point of sale solutions, we've also got accesso Passport, our fully hosted and award-winning e-commerce platform, and accesso Showware, which is a fully hosted box office and online ticketing solution specifically designed for the live entertainment space. Our third category is distribution. In 2017, we acquired a company called Ingresso, which is essentially a global distribution system for venues. And finally, our newest product, the Experience Engine, also known as TE2, helps marketers utilize guest data to deliver more personalized interactions. Our products and services support some of the top attractions in the world. To accomplish this, accesso focuses on research and development, a major point of differentiation for our products. In 2017, accesso was able to invest over $20 million directly back into R&D across its platforms. Honestly, that's equivalent to some of our competitors' entire annual revenues. We invest heavily in our products because our industry demands it, because our clients benefit from it, and because it makes a positive difference in the guest experience. Our accesso Siriusware solution offers powerful features for your business. That brings us to the main content I'm excited to talk to you about today. The focus of today's webinar will be our dynamic pricing calendar view. So what is it? This calendar, available through accesso Siriusware eCommerce, works with capacity-based dynamic pricing rules and allows your business to set price levels and rules for different days, different times of the year, etc. As tickets sell, pricing will automatically move from one tier to the next, based on the rules you've set up. The calendar can work with max for sale and points for sale dynamic pricing rules. Let's start by talking about how this will help your guests. For those venues who choose to offer discounted pricing on advance purchases or certain off-peak times, guests will have a new way to shop online. The calendar view will show guests a range of different prices and, if you'd like, available quantities before prices are due to increase. This allows guests to make quick comparisons and weigh whether they'd like to save or visit on a peak day. Another benefit is that guests can take advantage of early bird savings. You have the power to incentivize purchases made in advance by offering discounts for doing so. In addition to our new variable pricing calendar, we have a new event view calendar as well, allowing guests to be in the know for upcoming events, which I'll show you in more detail shortly. So why did we launch this feature? There are a few other points I want to touch on. Overall, the more people buying online, the better. Keeping this functionality within your Siriusware e-commerce store allows you to capture all the revenue, all of the guest data, and streamline reporting and fulfillment. Our hope is that this functionality will also drive attendance numbers up for you. Encouraging guests to purchase during times that are seeing low demand, making guests aware of upcoming events, and showing savings for advanced purchases should help you get more people in the door. Lastly, it is very easy to manage. Changes to pricing, inventory, and the settings for how the calendar looks can be made instantaneously. From the perspective of your business, there are a lot of things to be excited about when it comes to having the ability to use dynamic pricing in this way. Influencing guest behavior by creating an incentive to visit on off-peak days can be a great way to keep things balanced across your season or lower visitation times. Focusing on yield is important, but so is driving revenue. If initial demand is low, your team has a great option for creating price tiers to capture revenue. This allows prices to rise naturally based on demand. Lastly, the calendar really is easy to configure and adjust. Any folder with items in it can be set to a calendar view, and simple settings allow you to fine-tune how it looks to your guests. Simply put, we think this functionality gives you a great way to drive advanced purchase sales. Guests buy earlier when they have an incentive. This locks in your revenue, makes your guests happy, and creates predictability on visitation numbers that can be easily reported on. Before jumping into the live demo, I wanted to take a step back and talk about the success that many industries have seen utilizing dynamic pricing strategies. Starting in the travel and hospitality industries, and now bleeding into professional sports, museums, ski, and broader leisure industries, dynamic pricing has been a successful way to sell products in a diverse set of industries. The San Francisco Giants were an interesting case. They were the first professional sports franchise to incorporate dynamic pricing and were able to increase revenue by $7 million within a year. They became one of the notable success stories for the live entertainment industry. You'll see that across several professional sports leagues, there has been success in growing revenue during both high and low demand times, and fans are indeed purchasing earlier. Another interesting example comes from the Lyric Theater in Oklahoma. They adopted a dynamic pricing strategy that contributed to a 41% increase in single ticket revenue in 1 year. There was an interesting quote regarding their success that I wanted to share, discussing the thought that dynamic pricing can be seen as a penalty for those who don't get the lowest prices. The quote I wanted to share is, "Once we went through our pricing sprint, we realized that we're not penalizing people, we're providing incentives for people to behave in a way that helps our business. We're doing a big favor to the people that are most loyal because they're getting a discount. That made it so much easier." So they were able to reframe their pricing strategy and provide incentives to their patrons, and it paid off in a big way. Okay, let's take a look at all of this in action. We'll start by looking at the dynamic pricing calendar view. I'd like to give you a look at what this looks like from the guest point of view, and then we'll take a look at setup and how this all works from the administrator perspective. In this example, I'm choosing to display my one-day adult and one-day child tickets across the month. You'll see a range of different prices and quantities remaining, allowing guests to quickly compare and choose whether they'd prefer to pay more to visit on a weekend or popular day, or enjoy the benefits of a lower-priced off-peak day. So we're showing the same items over a range of dates and offering incentives for lower-priced days and pricing our peak days appropriately. I have rules set up so that my first tier of tickets is $45, seen on the 11th. My next tier is $60, seen on today's date, the 10th, followed by $70 on the 12th, and so on. I also have a rule set up for different pricing on the weekends. And in addition, I've stacked another dynamic pricing rule that offers a discount for tickets purchased 2 weeks out, Monday through Thursday. So you'll see a default 10% discount on my Monday through Thursday tickets after July 24th. We could also offer deeper discounts for tickets purchased further out if desired. If I choose a day to come, I have an optional feature that shows a multi-ad dropdown, allowing guests to select more items for that day. What I've done to show you here is that I'm only showing 2 items on the calendar, but I have 3 products available for that day for purchase here. So just choosing not to clutter the calendar, but offering more products for your guests. From the multi-ad dropdown, you can choose where the guest goes once they've made their selection and added items to the cart. Guests can be directed to the checkout screen, to a cart show screen, or nowhere, and it will just refresh the calendar so they can continue shopping. There's no difference to the checkout process, redemption process, or reporting process. This should simply be viewed as a new way for you to offer dynamic pricing in a calendar view with new dynamic pricing rules. A great new feature for those on the call who might be from an area using reloadable RFID media with a WTP number is that we can filter guests to the calendar once they've entered their WTP number in. The calendar will only display items which you have determined are available to guests with that pass type. You can still utilize unique dynamic pricing rules in this context as well. I'll start by putting my WTP number in. And when I click to see available items based on my pass type, I'll be redirected to the calendar view. So that's a quick look at the variable pricing view on the front end. Again, a great way to really have control over sales through your website, allowing you to capture revenue and guest data. It's also easy to manage, which I'll show you shortly. Next, I'd like to show you the event view calendar. This gives guests an easy to navigate view of what's going on at your venue for the month. The purpose of this view is to show multiple items appearing on specific dates. As you'll see here, some of these events are recurring, whereas I've got unique events such as Full Moon Nordic Ski and Paint and Sip. Multiple events on a given day can also be displayed, as you'll see on July 27th. For events with a limited capacity, you can alert guests when they're almost sold out. Clean pop-ups with additional information on the event without leaving the calendar page can also be enabled. This calendar view is just using classic availability, while some of the items use max for sale and some do not. It's a simple to use new way to display your events with the option to purchase tickets and display availability. You can decide whether you want to show availability and at what level of inventory you want to start showing it. As with the dynamic pricing calendar, the purchase process will not change once they've selected an item. They'll add it to their cart and check out as they normally would. Okay, next I'd like to focus on how this all works from an operational standpoint. I'm sure many of you are interested in the setup and work required to maintain the calendar, and the good news is it's honestly very easy. There are 2 areas where you'll control the calendar, Sys Manager and the eCommerce admin panel. In Sys Manager, you'll work in your item tree to determine which products belong to which calendar. You'll also set up and designate your dynamic pricing rules. If we look at my eCommerce item tree, you can see here that I've got a folder called Ticket Calendar that contains my different one-day ticket items, and the same goes for my special event folder. All I've done here is drag and drop these items into a folder together. These can be the same items you're already using, or you can set up unique items if you prefer. At the item level, there are a few settings that allow for everything to come together. First, I'll enforce max for sale. Although some items may not actually have a limit, we use max for sale so the system knows how many have been sold in order to calculate pricing. If the item is a general admission item that does not have inventory restrictions, we would use unlimited max for sale or points for sale. If there are capacity restrictions, we'd set it as such. If I go to the Price tab, this is where I'll select the dynamic pricing rule I want to use. And looking at the dynamic pricing rule itself, you'll see what goes on behind the scenes in the calendar I just showed you. So here I have a date range, my days of the week designated, and my price tiers. So my first tier is 0 through 6 tickets sold. The next is 7 through 20, and so on. I'm also stacking rules for advanced purchase discounts and have additional rules for weekend days below. So you can see here, if the ticket is purchased in advance 14 to 29 days out, we're discounting 10%, and greater than 30 days out, we're discounting 20%. Now, if I go back to my e-commerce store, we'll look at the admin panel. And this is where we've created several new settings for you to control how the calendar appears to your guests. So I'll go to my item list configuration. And once we're in there, I'll highlight our ticket calendar folder. And we'll hit edit, and we'll see a list of settings here. And the nice thing is there is a pop-up with explanations of these settings so that you can easily maneuver around. And all you have to do is click the question mark and you'll see an explanation of each setting. So all I've done to enable a calendar view on this folder of items is click here and set this to calendar. And some of the key settings are choosing whether you want a variable pricing view or an event view. Show tooltip, which will allow for pop-ups that explain your products, and in addition can also enable a multi-ad pop-up so that multiple items can be selected. Number of items in a cell to show. This controls how many items we're showing per day on the calendar. So we recommend no more than 3 so that the calendar keeps its clean appearance, but you can choose however many you'd like. Show savings will allow you to display the savings that a guest is seeing off of the rack rate. And savings break will set the threshold as to when savings should appear. So for example, if savings format is set to percentage and saving break is set to 10, it will not show savings at all until the savings are at least 10%. Okay, so that wraps up my live demo for today. I hope this has sparked some ideas on using dynamic pricing and how this might help you drive business and offer your guests a fun new way to shop. If you are interested in getting started with the calendar, please contact us at sales@accesso.com. And at this time, I'd like to take any questions. Katie, do we have any questions?
All right, thank you, Phil. Yes, we do have a couple that have come in. Our first question is, how long is the implementation process, and can you give us an idea of what that looks like?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So the first prerequisite for the calendar view is making sure that you're on 4601 or later. Other than that, the price of the calendar does include professional services time to update your Flex theme, which is the second step once we make sure that you're updated, or the first step if you are already updated. And after that work is complete, installing the calendar and the training itself is very straightforward and really should only take a few hours. So hopefully that helps.
Okay, great. And I think you actually answered one of our other questions in the process. So thank you for that. Our next question is, can I have more than one calendar for different kinds of products?
Yeah, so that's a good question as well. Answer is definitely yes. You can enable the calendar view on any folder you have with items in it. So you'll just determine which items belong together on a calendar, and then you'll set that folder to a calendar view in your admin panel, and you're all set. So you might have a calendar specifically for one-day items and another for packages and multi-day tickets and so on. So yeah, you can definitely have multiple calendars.
Okay, great. Our next question is, when was this released?
This was released in 4601, and that was I believe last fall, prior to last fall.
Okay, perfect. And this person had also asked what version of accesso Siriusware is required, which I believe you had answered in a previous response.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. We have a couple of other questions that are a little detailed. So let's do this one. Instead of displaying quantity left, is it possible to set thresholds for displaying available, limited, sold out? Do you happen to know?
Not sure I understand the question. So I guess if the question is whether you can show that they are sold out, the answer is yes. Let's keep that one as a follow-up, and I'll be happy to follow up individually and make sure we get that answered.
Okay, perfect. There was another question about how the calendar works with timed admission tickets. And this person also said that they have time slot categories with max for sale with the ticket items under each category.
Okay, so I think that's another one. Let's look at that one individually and be happy to look at it.
Okay, perfect. There's also a question about what the responsive or smartphone view of the calendar looks like.
Okay, yeah, so it is fully responsive and will look, as it should on either a phone or a tablet. So that's, yeah, definitely something I'd be happy to send some screenshots for or do in a live demo with whoever asked that question. But yes, it is fully
All
responsive.
right, perfect. There are other questions coming in that are also a little detailed. So again, these might be questions that are better suited to individual follow-up, but I'm going to go ahead and ask them anyway. Does the calendar look at max for sale values to determine what date it appears on the calendar?
So yes. Yes.
Okay, great. Good question. All right, the next question is, how are multi-day tickets handled? Can a guest purchase variable priced multi-day tickets?
Sure. Yeah, if you have at the item level, if you have, say a 3-day ticket set to have a dynamic pricing rule, then it will work the same way as a 1-day ticket would as far as the calendar is concerned. And that goes for, a multi-day ticket or a package. The calendar is really just a different view for how that's going to look for a guest buying it, but it's not going to change how the item itself, works and is sold.
Okay, great. Our next question is, does this work with the kiosk?
So a guest could definitely purchase through the calendar and then have their will call experience at a kiosk, if that's what the question is. So
Okay.
they're buying online through the calendar and redeeming at a kiosk. That would be fun.
Okay, great. And then it looks like we have two more here. The first one is, can the M4S sold dynamic pricing rule condition be used right now in 4.6 sales?
Yes. Yeah, so that dynamic pricing rule can be used as long as they're on 4601 or after with or without the calendar.
All right, perfect. And it looks like our last question Oh, okay, actually, I take that back. The person who asked about the kiosk just clarified that they meant selling at the kiosk with the dynamic pricing calendar. So I guess, is it possible to have that calendar view at the kiosk? Okay, so that might be one for follow-up. I'm not sure if we...
Sorry, Kitty, I lost you there for a second in the middle of that question.
Phil, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Oh, okay, that was very strange. Okay, so the person is asking, the person who asked about the kiosk wanted to clarify that they meant selling at the kiosk with the dynamic pricing calendar.
I'm not sure on that one. I don't believe so, but that will be something I'll have to test. I don't think this would work on a kiosk, but be happy to look into it.
Okay, great. And it looks like our last question here is, what are the different dynamic pricing modules? It sounds like this person has dynamic pricing features and is wondering if the calendar is separate.
Yeah, so the calendar itself is a licensed module. The dynamic pricing rules that it's using, that's not something that's licensed, but it's basically just enabling that calendar view on the folder of items in your admin panel through eCommerce that is a licensed module.
All right, great. Well, oh, you know what? We had one more question, but I believe this one is going to be one that we'll need to follow up with as well. So we will make sure to get back to the person who asked it. So we're going to go ahead and wrap things up here. I wanted to thank everyone for attending today's webinar, Sell More with our Dynamic Pricing Calendar, and thank you all for your wonderful questions as well. We will make sure to follow up with everyone individually if we didn't have a chance to address your question. If you have any other questions or would like to learn more about this offering, please email sales@accesso.com. We will also send out a link to view the recording within the next day. On behalf of Phil and Accesso, thank you again for joining us and enjoy your day.